After the holidays, a little cash goes a long way. The Chime checking account has tons of benefits to help, like fee-free overdraft up to $200 for eligible members, no monthly fees, and thousands of fee-free ATMs. You can even get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Sign up for Chime today at chime.com/goals24. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply. Access to direct deposits up to 2 days early depends on the timing of the submission of the payment file from the payer.
Good because, it was, if you didn't want to grow, there's 28 people. So there's bound to be some people who don't want to do certain things, but there was always at least one who was down for the ride. So you never were alone. You say, oh, there's a cheap ticket to this city. There was always someone to go with. And traveling internationally while also being international was a challenge. So I began to pick up on different things about airports and recognizing that even though you don't know the language, a lot of airports are built very similar. So even though you don't know the language, I can still get around, even to this day, just about any airport, because a lot of them have the same messaging, the same signs, the same signals, just in a different language.
Welcome to Travel Tuesdays Happy Hour, where we interview dope people doing dope things from around the world. Today I have the beautiful guest. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Shantel. I work currently for the federal government in budget as an analyst, and I love to travel whenever I'm not doing that.
So what got you into traveling in the first place?
The first time I ever went outside of the country, actually, I was an undergrad, and I got an offer to study abroad. So I immediately said no, because being a girl, only child from Detroit, inner city, that's just not something you do, just take off and go to Europe for a summer or something without your parents, without your family. But actually, it was my mom who talked me into it. She had me when she was 16. And she never had really gone anywhere because she had me and those responsibilities. And she was like, if you don't take advantage of this, you're crazy. So I ended up getting a scholarship. So money wasn't an option. I went, had a ball. Mine was just blown with how much I learned and how much I grew in just that summer. Because it's reading things in a book and seeing things on TV and then experiencing them for yourself. Right. And ever since then, I think it was when I was 20 years old and studied abroad in undergrad, I was hooked. Anytime I could go somewhere and get somewhere, especially as far as I could, I was ready to go.
So so a lot of people in undergrad don't really get these opportunities, right? I think I wish I had better grades, then I would have done a study abroad. But I think that's, not necessarily a cheat code, but that's a decent way to go about it, because it's in a safe manner, it's in a controlled environment, and you're learning cultures while still getting an education. And while you're out there, you're kind of bouncing around different countries because it's kind of part of your stay type of scenario. Exactly. And so you're killing multiple birds with one stone. What did you like most about that experience?
What I liked most, actually, is that we went as a group. So it was a group of 28 students, and we actually took 2 faculty members with us. So even though it was a totally different country and different experience, I didn't feel alone. Mm-hmm. And that was, for my first time traveling abroad, that was crucial. Because being a natural introvert, I felt like I probably would have stayed in my room or kind of just went to certain locations that I deemed were safe had I not had that group influence to go places and do things I normally would not have done had it not been for 27 other people saying, let's go do this. So that was probably the most beneficial part of that.
And where did you go?
So we went to Brighton, England, which is about 45-minute train ride outside of London. Okay. But it's so centrally located that we were able to kind of hop around Europe on the weekends when we weren't in class, because, Heathrow is right up the street, and it was so easy to get to multiple countries and multiple cities for, easy jets, like $100. So we were gone like every weekend somewhere different. And every time, it's like, with Europe being so much smaller than the US, it's like in 2 hours, you could be in a totally different country. You know, you don't even get to take a nap good on the plane, and you're landing in a different country, different language, different food. And so that was awesome.
So in that experience, what would you say was where did you visit, by the way? I mean, I'm assuming France is probably one of the places you went.
We did go to Paris. We went to London, obviously. We went to Rome, went to the Netherlands. So we saw Amsterdam, Holland, and Leiden.
As a 20-year-old in Holland and in Amsterdam. We're not going to talk about that. You work for the government. We're not going to talk about that. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah.
Yeah, no, so it was good because, you know, it was, if you didn't want to grow, you know, there's 28 people. So there's bound to be some people who don't want to do certain things, but there was always at least one who was down for the ride. So you never were alone. You say, oh, there's a cheap ticket to this city. You know, there was always someone to go with. And traveling internationally while also being international was a challenge. So I began to pick up on different things about airports and recognizing that even though you don't know the language, a lot of airports are built very similar. Mm-hmm. So even though you don't know the language, I can still get around, even to this day, just about any airport, because a lot of them have the same messaging, the same signs, the same signals, just in a different language. So having to go to all those airports in a short amount of time kind of got me used to the way to travel, to the point where if I had to do it by myself, which I do a lot, I'm not afraid. Like, I don't speak the language, but I know exactly where I'm going in every airport for some reason. So,
got it. So, I lost track of thought. So that's cool. So, like, as a student traveling abroad for education, like, did that change your perspective on things, right? So, like, I want to take it a couple steps back. So from Detroit, where did you go to school, like undergraduate?
I went to Michigan State University in East Lansing.
So from Detroit to London, to Europe, what was that like, the difference, right? Because you're going from, so in Detroit, did you go to like a PWI, a mixed school, or all black school?
I went to all black high school.
And then you went to Michigan State, you said?
Yes.
So PWI.
Exactly.
So what was that experience like jumping into that world?
It was difficult at first, because there was a learning curve that I wasn't expecting.
Okay.
In high school, I was, at the top of my class, perfect 4.0, lots of scholarships and, the works. And when I got to undergrad, I realized that in certain cases I was ahead, but in many cases I was behind, especially in like math. And I didn't realize it would be that sort of learning curve because all my grades have always been good, right? So it was more of me having to play catch up when I didn't think I would need to do that. And so that first year was the big transition for me, coming from being a top student to almost at the bottom of my class and having to pull myself back up. It really took a mental toll on me that year. So
what year did you choose to say, you know what, I'm going to take on this opportunity and go to Europe?
It was at the end of my second year, after I felt like I had risen to the standards that I set for myself. And also I felt like I could take on that extra responsibility, because even though we went with 2 instructors from university, they still kind of taught us the European way, which is a lot of writing, not multiple choice. So
repetition.
Exactly. So I needed a certain confidence before I could go to feel good about myself. And so that's why that first year when opportunities came, I didn't take them at first. But then at the end of that second year, I felt like, okay, I think I can do this.
So Detroit, young, beautiful young girl coming out of Detroit, experiencing Europe for the first time. Mm-hmm. Like, did you come back like different, having seen like more than just Michigan?
Absolutely. And that's why one of the biggest things I tell young people to this day is to get what I call out of your own backyard. Because before I went there, I compared everything to myself. Well, this is the way I've been taught. This is the way I've lived. And sometimes you really have to get out of your own backyard and see how other people live to realize you're not the center of the universe. Shocker. And, just from the different foods and the different way of life, like me living in Detroit, the Motor City, I'd never really walked anywhere. And so being in Europe with no car, everyone taking the train and people, walking around, like that was the first time in my life I actually lost weight. But I didn't join a gym. It was just the lifestyle changed. The food was different. The culture was different. The language was the same. So that kind of helped. But I think I matured more in that 3 months than I had in years. Because I had to, a lot of things. No, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say some of the things that tripped us up when we first got there was that, I don't want to say it, that American ignorance of thinking our way is better and everyone else is backward. So we kind of got rid of that very quickly. Very quickly.
So is this something that you would recommend most students think about as they, think about going to college, right? I mean, kind of weird for the 2020, 21, 22 kids, but, when things get to a new norm, is that something you would recommend them do? Just take the opportunity? Because, it sounds like it changed your view in life.
I absolutely would recommend it if you could. And like I said, I found scholarships and ways to get there. There are people willing to help if money is an issue, but I would recommend everyone to take this experience. Not only are you taking credits and classes anyway, but it's certain things that you cannot learn about in a book or watching a movie. You have to be there. You have to experience it. And the more you know, the more you grow type of thing. And the more you get used to the fact that you are not it and you're not that exceptional, I think it will definitely help you and humble you later in life. I absolutely would recommend that.
That's dope.
It was fun.
Exactly. So what keeps you traveling? Like, what excites you about preparing for that next trip? Like, at least prior to COVID.
Prior to COVID, that's one of my forms of therapy for me. I look forward to all aspects of it, even the getting up early in the morning, the packing, the, going to the airport. It's because I know I have an anticipation that I'm going to do something awesome. And also with traveling, like I said, I'm an introvert. So sometimes at home, I don't tend to go out and do as much because I kind of seem like I've been there, I've done that. When you go into a new place, you do almost everything on the list because you think, I don't know when I'm going to come back here.
Right.
So I'm my most extroverted self on vacation because I have to be. I don't know when I'm going to be in this city or this country again. So I'm doing everything. And, that's what excites me. It's just the adventure, the ups and downs, but mostly the ups, meeting new people,
Are you typically a solo traveler or you rather go with groups?
I used to more so go as a couple. Even if it's just me and my partner or me and a friend, at least if it was two people. I've done solo trips, but only within the U.S. But I also have a travel group that I travel with pretty often. So not as big as when I studied abroad, but at least, 8 to 10 people or so. Okay.
So we mentioned you coming out of Detroit, going to a big city, big school, right? And then going to Europe. Do you recall, and then now when you travel, looking back, have you ever recalled being looked at different or being treated different because of your skin tone, because being a woman? Because today, as you can see what's going on here in the United States, because of our skin color or our history, African Americans are just treated like crap. Let's just put it out there. Have you ever kind of experienced this overtly or just directly while traveling?
I have, unfortunately, not as often as I thought I would, but I actually have. There's one particular instance when I was studying abroad in London, and a friend of mine, we were just walking up and down the street because that's how we, got to see places and do videos and things. And a car kind of came to a slow roll, and we looked over and they started making monkey sounds at us.
Wow.
And at first I thought they were going to ask us something because they were slowing down. I'm like, please don't ask me where to go because I don't know where we're going. And they just started making monkey sounds. It's almost like we froze because that's just not something you expect. Like as a woman, you would kind of expect cat calling or something, but that it was almost like, what do we do? And I guess we were we were also like naive because I was like, I understand this happening back home, but it wasn't something I expected there because it's so diverse and everyone, for the most part, seems so nice. So that was kind of something that stuck out to us, like, there are ignorant people everywhere,
So you mentioned traveling in pairs. Have you ever felt as a woman being unsafe while traveling internationally? Like, I had another guest that felt, in certain countries in Europe, the woman is over sexualized to the point where it's like it's blatant. You know what I mean?
There were two specific instances. One in Europe was in Rome, in Italy. And the other, probably most aggressive, was when we were in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The cat calling there was kind of the worst that I've ever witnessed. And in researching before I went, I knew that.
Okay.
About
both or just
Rio? No, not about Italy. That was a shock. But in Brazil, I knew. And it was very much, just kind of ignore it, but this will happen. But I guess the aggressiveness of it, I didn't expect because I was with a man and with a very large man at that. So the fact that they were still doing it, it didn't seem to deter them at all. And it was, even though I couldn't understand Portuguese, it was very clear that what they were saying was not something I would want to hear. And I mean, just grabbing your arm if they want to talk to you, it was very overtly aggressive. And like I said, you can read about it and people warn you about it. You go to different travel websites and that's one of the things they say, but it still was a shock experience, and it definitely was.
And then about Italy, was that like subtle or was that like an overt type of disrespect?
That wasn't as overt as Brazil because they try to romanticize it a little bit. Like you should almost be flattered, but it wasn't flattering, but it definitely wasn't as out there as Brazil was, but it was more of, it started off at the romantic side of it. And if you didn't fall for that, then it got a little more aggressive. Like, hey, I'm being nice to you. You should, Well,
it's in a different language. Hey, beautiful, what you doing? And then the guy starts saying, I don't want to talk to you.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
So they just get a lot more vulgar with getting your attention. So I mean, is there a way, and we're all on social media and we just see the glitz and glamour of some of these countries. Right? Is there a woman's guide to understanding how things work in certain countries? Because like you don't expect to go to Rome and feel overly sexualized, right? And I think the umbrella is it's a romantic country, so they're naturally friendly, right? And so is there a situation where like going into looking about a country that you could be like, look, ladies, these guys are romantic, they'll talk nice and sweet to you, but there's a dark side, because I think there probably will be other people be after you that are like, I didn't know this about this country. And now I don't want to generalize it and make it seem like it's everyone in the country. But just like you knew it was possible in Brazil, is it not something that we advertise about the other countries? Because like, one of my guests mentioned it happened to her in Greece, right? You're mentioning it in Rome and Rome and Brazil. And so it's one of those things where, and was this more recent or was this like sometime like when you were in
Brazil was recent. Rome was when I studied abroad undergrad.
Okay. Yeah. Cause it's like the world's becoming more and more, not female friendly, unfortunately, to the point where, Agent Orange says and does things that other people think it's okay.
It's becoming normalized. Yeah.
Right. It's becoming normalized. So, yeah. So, I mean, anything else that you've experienced that you may want to let people know, like, hey, I mean, one of the things that I noticed, and it wasn't just our treatment, it was just the treatment within the country, was in Morocco, right? How Northern Moroccans treat the Sub-Saharans like second-class citizens. And it all has to do with their skin and where they come from, not necessarily the color of their skin.
Right.
And then two, they try to brush it off like, oh no, we live peacefully together, but you can clearly see the separation.
Exactly.
So yeah,
like an caste system. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So where were you when like COVID hit? Like, you were on a Caribbean cruise somewhere, or you were just back home just chilling?
Funny because I found a good deal on a flight to Austin, Texas, and I'd never been. And I took a solo trip. I looked for people. No, number one rule, if you can't find someone to go with, go by yourself. No one wanted to go. And something told me to go because I was going to wait till summer. And something said, let's just go now. So I went. Weather was beautiful. Found the Pitbull concert going on. Got a ticket at the last minute. Partying by myself, had a ball. I was coming home, and this was late February, and I noticed the airport were doing some, I want to say, extra things, like I saw a guy kind of building like hand sanitizing stations, and I'm like, that's cool. I thought it was just for general use. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I see a few more people wearing masks that are coming from national travel. I'm like, I really didn't think anything of it more than that. It's just like as soon as I landed, everything hit the fan.
Wow.
And, within 2 weeks, we were in full lockdown. Like I said, I work a 9 to 5 that can easily be done online. So thankfully, we just got our laptops and went home. And I've been working from home since March 13th.
Oh, wow.
So I have not been in the office once except to exchange my laptop because the battery blew up on me. But other than that, I've been home ever since,
Wow, that's crazy. Because I was actually, I learned about it on a cruise ship. And the only reason we learned about it was because that cruise ship that was stuck in Asia or something like that. And mind you, we're literally at the beginning, like the boat leaves, and then on the news, it's like, yeah, cruise ship stopped because of coronavirus and this, that, and the other. And we're like, hold up, they let us take off and there's this coronavirus thing going on. Like, what's going on? And, my mom always said, just watch and pray. So, we just prayed for safe passage. And it wasn't until we got back. I mean, even when we got back from the show, I got back the 20th and then went to North Carolina for CIAAs, went to Houston for the weekend. Then Houston was the last exact trip before they was like, yeah, we're not letting nobody go anywhere. And so at that point, I was just like, "Ooh, I got some of the stuff that I wanted to get out," because I had a trip to Haiti at the end of the month. I had a trip to Costa Rica in August. I had a trip to Puerto Rico in October. I had a trip to St. Lucia and Trinidad in September. So, I'm like, all right, but out of tragedy come gifts and assessments of yourself and what's going on. Like, did you learn anything about yourself during this time?
I did. And one of the things I learned was sometimes escapism doesn't have to mean you getting on a plane and going to another country. If you feel overworked, anxiety, and you need that escapism, my answer used to be, I'm getting on a plane, I'm going somewhere, right? But sometimes you just have to get out of your own head. That could be, I'm taking off work for a few days. I'm going to do some writing. I'm going to read on my patio. I'm going to maybe go to an Airbnb that's up the street, but it's still out of my home so I can, get some perspective. You don't always have to go away if you can't in times like this, but if you need a mental break. And that was one of the things I had to learn because I also had a trip for June that was going to Bali and Singapore with my travel.
Nice.
And so I was like, that's usually my unwind times. I was like, what am I going to do? I don't have anywhere to go. And it's like, you have to make adjustments.
Got it.
When life comes at you fast, you just have to make adjustments, and you can still get away without going on the other side of the world. But one is more fun.
How are you adjusting to the new norm? Like, things are slowly opening up. Are you this introvert now wanting to be an extrovert, or you're like still like, nah, I'm gonna stay home, do kickbacks, and keep it safe?
Exactly. I have not been inside of a restaurant to eat since mid-March.
Wow.
I truly social distance. I want no parts of, some of these things are opening up fine. I think at a good pace. And luckily I live in Michigan. I live in a state where I think our governor is phenomenal. Okay. And, she wasn't easily intimidated into open up early. She, kept our numbers as best she could. If there was any place I could be in the US, I would love to be. I'm glad I'm here. Nice. So I don't do too many get-togethers. It's just
not now, at least.
No, but thank goodness for technology, because I can pretty much still see anyone I want to see, just maybe not in person. And I've definitely been more on the FaceTime, Zoom, Microsoft Teams sort of train, and do drive-by parties. Stay in the car.
I don't understand those drive-by parties. You get in a car, you just drive by and wave.
We did, I thought it was weird too, but my grandmother had a birthday in April, and we all did like a parade. We put balloons on our cars and drove around the block a few times and waved. And that seemed to just like make her day. So I was like, it's a few minutes for us, but it means the world to her. And, it could be hard not having, people around. Like, I live alone. So that could take a mental toll on you, not having that constant camaraderie that you normally would have, at least in the office. Yeah. So, you got to get creative.
Yeah. Like, my dad lives with me, and we did Don't Rush Challenge together. I think it was Easter, and I was like, hey, let's get dressed. It's Easter. Got him his favorite meal from one of the restaurants. And I was like, yo, just get dapper. I get dapper. We just do it. And then we just did a whole photo shoot of him just, this was the first time, so he would typically go to a senior center, and all those centers shut down. And then friend after friend after friend are passing away because of this COVID thing. He just started to go deeper and deeper into I don't want to say depression, but seclusion. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I just was like, look, what you like, me being his caretaker, I would try to make sure he doesn't eat certain things. So what you want? He's like, I want fried fish. I want plantains. Yeah, all this stuff, right? So I was like, you know what? Easter, you've been doing well, so let's get you this. But he ate it all in one sitting.
Nice.
And a photo shoot. He's like, yo, I want you to send this photo to this person. And so, we took advantage of the opportunity to really make moments. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's also how I started doing this. When you can't travel and all you can do is you can't see the people you normally travel with. And you can't meet new people to travel with. I just started, you know what? Let me interview some dope travelers. Let me get some of their stories on how they got started, what keeps them interested in traveling, and getting some information about them, around the current events. Because, we are kind of forced to be reflective during this time. And I'm a strong believer of how we come out of this is really going to be determined of how we were during it. And, I'm just using my platform to, showcase dope people that, may not be able to do it themselves, or just, aren't really that out there to talk about themselves that much. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Your story is super dope to the point where I got introduced from a Detroit kid going to Europe, and like you said, how many kids grew up where you grew up, really got to see off their block, Exactly. And I mean, let's not even say neighborhood or backyard. Some kids don't get to see past their block if they're not going to and from school. So that's definitely encouraging. So with that said, as far as travel goes, before COVID, what would have been a tip for somebody that would let's say you talk to a Detroit kid, that went to your high school, you were asked to go back to school and be like, travel is important. These are some things that you should think about before travel. All right. What would give me maybe 3 or 4 tips that you would give them?
Number 1, get a passport. You have no idea how many people are so ready to go and they don't have a passport.
Well, so you gotta keep in mind baby steps, right? So depending on the neighborhood you grew up in, right?
Exactly.
A photo ID can get you to Miami, can get you to Jersey, can get you to New York City, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying
Well, no, that's why I put that first, because I'll first ask them, do you have a passport? And they'll say the same thing you have. No, I never needed one. Even for certain cruise ships, an enhanced ID is enough.
Right.
So I say before you plan anything, before you buy anything, get that $140 or whatever it is now, and get it. Oh, jeez. Well, get that and get your passport. And not only is it just something you need to have, but once you get it, it actually makes you want to go somewhere. Because when you get something new, you want to use it or you want to wear it or whatever it is. So getting that passport is you looking at it every day. It's like, I want to go somewhere now. So that's number 1, first and foremost. But let's say you've booked a trip and you're ready to go and all of this. I would go as a federal employee. I've been trained to go to the State Department's website and kind of look at different threat levels of different countries, vaccinations that you may want to get before you go. What are some tips that they would give you traveling, whether you're traveling alone or in a group to a certain country? I would take heed of that because usually the government knows things that may not be as widely known as public.
Also, you can subscribe to notifications. So
yes,
they will send you email notifications when different threat levels or different information is released so that you know whether or not to go or not.
Yeah. And the CDC also will. The Center for Disease Control also, you can sign up for alerts. So if there's any outbreaks or anything in that country, you will know and, take precautions or whatever. But also something I started doing even in meantime, in between travels, is taking advantage of YouTube. There's so many people who like to document their travels, whether it's videos, pictures. Some people will literally have a camera on all day and everything they do, they're recording, so check that out. See how people live, see how people travel, see, any special circumstances. I will straight up Google traveling to X country while Black and see the experience, because unfortunately we have unique experiences that other people don't have.
Yeah.
Even traveling to African countries.
Yeah, I was just telling somebody that it would be dope to have an international green book.
Green book, exactly.
And
you should make it, Tony.
I gotta hit a couple more countries to complete that, but I'm with it. You gotta help me out. You got the resources. The people. Where all the embassies are. So all I need to know is reach out to you. Be like, look, I'm going to Qatar. Who do I need to talk to?
Exactly. Toni Morrison said, if the book you want isn't written, you got to write it. So
exactly. And I think that's kind of why I ask a tip at the end of each episode, towards the end of each episode, because everyone has a different perspective. That's also why I asked you, what was your perspective after going to Europe while in college, right? Because your typical college kid don't think it's affordable to go on a trip even across the pond, right?
Right.
All they know is Miami for spring break, or Vegas, or some of these other, like Mexico, and that's cool. But going to Ghana, Egypt, Morocco, South Africa, a lot of these different places where it's not the United States, but it's a different experience. Exactly. I've been fortunate enough to have visited Africa about 5 times now. So I'm like,
yeah.
But I'm still excited to go back. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm excited to go to Europe. I have yet to been to London. So that's kind of like on my list of places to go as well. So what has been your top 5 countries to visit?
Countries.
Or cities. I mean, your top 5 places to visit.
Number one is going to sound cliche, but it is Paris, France. It is cliche, but I love it. It's so beautiful. I love the food. I love the history. I'm a history buff and a nerd. So just all the historical buildings and museums, I loved it. Number two would be Dubai. Usually I don't go for the flashy richness, but I was feeling it. Like
Really?
I feel like I was living my best life there.
So what is Dubai like? Is it
Rich? No.
is it a affordable trip, or is that like your splurge trip?
You can make it affordable.
Okay.
It's kind of like Vegas in a way where you can ball out, or you can make it as affordable as you want.
Got it.
And there's kind of a somewhat of a package for everybody.
Got it.
We did not do the affordable package, but that was our like once in a lifetime, we're going to splurge type trip. We weren't looking for the cheapest hotel or the best deal. We were looking to have, the time of our lives. So wherever you want to go price point, you can go there. They just want you to come. So, but it was very flashy, very glitzy, glamour. I mean, I loved it.
And so the interesting story I heard was that's probably one of the only Muslim countries that they actually like drink.
Yes, they do drink, but I did not see a lot of locals drinking.
Right.
So they allow it, but I wouldn't get too carried away, and I would still be respectful. If you're around people and no one else is drinking but you, I wouldn't do it. You see what I mean? They probably won't say anything to you if they see that you're a tourist or hear the accent, but I would be mindful and respectful of your surroundings. Gotcha. I would say that. Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm all about making it back home, so
Exactly.
I don't want no problem. So I interrupted. So it was Paris, it was Dubai. What else?
Believe it or not, it's still Rio de Janeiro. Still. Gotcha. Besides the aggressiveness, it's a party city. It's like New York, but they speak Portuguese. I'm sorry, it's like New Orleans, but they speak Portuguese. They have this square called Lapa, which reminds you of Bourbon Street. It's essentially Bourbon Street, but they're speaking Portuguese. Wow. Like that, we party from the time we landed to the time we left. The beach, it's a party, and we loved it. Besides
So you're this introvert that goes across the world to be an extrovert.
That's all right. Nobody knows me.
I'll take that anytime. When you once you go outside of your home, hey, look, I could be my name is Jasmine for all we know.
There you go. I can't give away my fake name, but yeah. Let's see. That was number 3. Number 4, I would probably say is it was Morocco, specifically Fez. Little lesser known city, but I loved everything about it, and the culture and the people and the food was amazing. And even though Casablanca and Marrakesh get all of the glory, which they kind of deserve, but Fez just stuck out to me a lot.
That was your birthday weekend? Was it your birthday?
No, it wasn't my birthday weekend. It was somebody else's birthday.
It was mine.
Okay.
It was mine and somebody else's birthday. I can't remember who else's birthday it was.
Out to eat nice. That's what I remember is the food being awesome.
Yes.
And I think that was number 4, right? I think number 5 would probably be London. Again, lots of history, lots of culture, but it's also party central. So if you want to do the history and the cultural thing and take all the tours during the day, you can. But at night, if you're a partier, I'm not really a partier, but I'm a people watcher. And you'll never be bored going out in London in the summer at night. So
you just find yourself a nice chair in catacomb and
a drink
just enjoy it. Have a nice bottle of wine, sitting at the table, just eating a baguette and watching people move around.
There you go. There you go.
That's dope. That's dope. And so, do you still have countries that's on like places that are on your bucket list?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Really? Like what?
Yeah. Actually, Singapore was one of those. That's why I was so excited to go this summer before it got postponed because of COVID. But ever since I saw Crazy Rich Asians, I was like, I want to go to Singapore.
Listen, I was about to say the same thing. I was like, yo, Crazy Rich Asians really made me like, all right, I need to figure out a way to make it to Singapore.
Exactly.
And because I like that combo, Bali, Singapore. I would have done like Japan, China, Singapore, Bali, and then like found my way across. But
exactly.
Yeah. Like I'm like, my thing is like, if I make it that way, I might as well like just go all out. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
Like going back and forth to like that part of the world, it's a pain. It's like a 20-something hour flight.
Yeah.
And you lose what? You lose a day.
You lose a day.
And you're like, all right. But yeah, look, great minds think alike, you know.
Yeah, you go.
You haven't seen it yet. You've been living under a rock. But I really want to thank you. I mean, what do you have going on? You did start a new page, right?
I did start a new page because
page?
My current page is locked. So I started another page that sometimes I post on that's open to everybody, but I don't have my social media open because I'm just private, introverted, weird.
Gotcha. So what do you have going on that people might want to check out?
Nothing right now. I just joined actually a new group called the Black Girls Social Club. And so they're starting to open one up in every major city. It's just a way for us to kind of socialize in a safe space. Mostly career-oriented people, but who like to hang out. I don't do as much hanging out because of COVID, but that's usually where I am with the group.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to say I'm honored to have you on the show. I hope it wasn't as nerve-wracking as most people think it is.
No. Oh, no.
And, you know, I like I said, I really appreciate it. I mean, we had a blast in Morocco. And so I figured, you know what? She probably have stories. It's the quiet ones that got all the stories. So it's the quiet one that has all the stories. But I do want to say thank you for jumping on. I am honored that you are willing to share your story with me and allowing me to share it with the rest of the world. So
After the holidays, a little cash goes a long way. The Chime checking account has tons of benefits to help, like fee-free overdraft up to $200 for eligible members, no monthly fees, and thousands of fee-free ATMs. You can even get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. Sign up for Chime today at chime.com/goals24. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. members FDIC. Spot me eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Out-of-network ATM withdrawal fees may apply. Access to direct deposits up to 2 days early depends on the timing of the submission of the payment file from the payer.